Hello YouTube, this is the Nervin, and today I will talk about Kindred of the East. Here the German version, Kindred is Lotus. In this game you play people who have some connection with Asia and who died, went to one of the 10,000 hells and clawed their way back into the realms of the living, the so-called Kuei-jin, or Huan Kuei, or Gairen, or simply Kindred of the East. These are not your typical Cainites as Vampire the Masquerade details. This is an entire different type of monster. Though it is not an entire standalone line, because they decided not to reprint the core rules in the main book, which is a plus point, I think. Though in OWoD of Darkness there was no core rulebook for all systems, as is in New World of Darkness, so that was a bit problematic. But this book assumes that you have Vampire the Masquerade, and to some lesser extent you need the players, or you need one of the guides to the Savage. I will go into that a bit later. Kindred of the East is actually a very nice blend of Camarilla society and of Sabbath society. You have interesting parts of both. You have a very hierarchical structure where the older Kindred of the East, the older Kuei-jin, the Mandarins and ancestors hold the true power, but are also the teachers of the younger. So where in Vampire the Masquerade you have usually the situation where the elders hold all the power in their dead hands and have all the sway over their lessers without any responsibilities. In Kindred of the East you have a society where the upper echelons gain respect from their peers by taking on students and having the most successful students. The most important thing about this game is that the morality system is way different than in Vampire the Masquerade. In Vampire you begin with basically either a humanity rating that indicates you have a human moral system that is somewhere among the normal values for humans. In this game you have something akin to a path of enlightenment at the lowest possible level, and any mistake you make can throw you back into a state of ferality, if that's a word. You can lose control over yourself very, very easily. These paths of enlightenment are often quite monstrous themselves if read on the if you read the pillars of this of these paths, the so-called Dharmas. Where in Vampire you try to grasp onto what morality you have, in the case of Camarilla play, you try to reach an ideal as encompassed by these dharmas. Um, and this makes for a very different um, style of play, which is akin to the Sabbath play, as Planet Humanoid would certainly agree, because you in the in whilst you play, you have to accept more and more of your monstrous nature. You become more and more something inhuman. Um, Maybe I best describe the five core um, dharmas. There we have the howl of the devil tiger. These are Kuei-jin who accept that they are devils and believe themselves to be part of the cosmic hierarchy as the punishers of the wicked, as and as being wicked beings themselves. So they have the given right to do monstrous deeds where nobody else has. And this is a very interesting duality, because on the one hand these are probably the most debased characters that you can play. On the other hand, these are the dark superheroes, if you will, because they actually hunt down the most wicked part of humanity and inflict the most horrible torments upon them. Then we have the Song of Shadows. These are very refrain from using the moniker goth, but it's very close, because these are very close to the forces of death, but also the forces of logic and inquiry, the dead. They are the mysterious stranger, and they like to talk in riddles, because they believe it would be an insult to outright state something to someone, because then you would, for one part, take away the possibility of the other person to reach its own conclusions, and also because you would imply he is not capable of solving your riddle. Also very interesting characters. I can only describe these very vaguely because they have many facets. Then we have the Dance of the Thrashing Dragon. These are the most alive of the Kuei-jin. As opposed to the Cainites, Kuei-jin can appear very lively, and these usually do. They embrace their human nature, but also their more primal nature. They try to emulate nature and try to learn from what nature has to tell them. They don't try to live as wolves just for the sake of living like wolves. They would try to see what benefits being like a wolf brings to you, and adapt themselves to use the strength without the weaknesses. Also, they are something akin to the shepherds of humanity. Then we have the Resplendent Cranes, the most aloft of the five dharmas of the Quanquunks. I hope I pronounced that right. These are the judges, the arbiters and the leaders and the consciousness of co-aging society. They are very much influenced by Buddhism and by Confucianism. They are diametrically opposed to the devil tigers, as the Song of Shadows is diametrically opposed to the Thrashing Dragons. And in the midst of all this are the is the path of the Thousand Whispers. These are a bit strange to play because basically they are role players. Yeah, they are role players because they try to, as the Thrashing Dragons try to emulate animal behavior to use for further their own themselves. The Path of Thousand Whispers, yeah, I think Path of Thousand Whispers, are more well, they put on masks, human masks, and they live through human lives one after the other to gain some insight into what makes life useful, what makes it interesting, what life is about. These are the center of co-aging society. They hold everything together by accepting the extremes and putting them against one another. They might, for example, live one life as a raging lunatic who maybe a bandit's life, and the next life they would try to counterbalance their former life, and maybe they would live as a monk, or maybe as a state official, or a policeman. And these lives can go from maybe half a year to actually 60 to 80 years. I can only encompass these very, very shortly, but each and every one of these has some very, very demonic appearing concepts attached to them. For example, the Path of Thousand Whispers, when they shed one of the masks they have taken on, they have they have to devour, literally devour, those things that hold them back into the mask. So if someone has grown dear to them, this was something that would impede their moral ascension. So they consume them, and this can mean quite literally committing cannibalism.